What's up, ZBrushers? Welcome back to Z Fever. My name is Ricky, and today we're going to be going over hard surface techniques in ZBrush. Alright, I'll cut with the silly accent, guys. I've had way too much coffee, just got finished with a workout, and I'm pretty amped to be making this week's discussion in this wonderful little program that we call ZBrush. So, I'm going to try not to go too crazy with my frantic bouncing all over the document. Bear in mind, it's kind of how I process my thinking whenever I'm in here. So, I've been getting some questions through this channel and through another channel that I have. It's a bit of an older channel. People asking, how can I sculpt hard surface forms? So similar to these, where you have these cuts, where one form runs into another, similar to what you would see on, say, an automobile. Okay, so I figured, I've been meaning to put together somewhat of a series on here, so why not jump right into it with this? So let's do some groundwork first. So whenever we are working with something like this, we need to start somewhere. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab just a sphere. I'm going to make it a polymesh 3D. And then I'm going to dynamesh it. And I'm just going to leave the resolution. Actually, let me bust it down to say like 72, something like that. Okay. Right. Go ahead and turn on Symmetry. And let's talk about what we are going to be tackling here. First, we're going to talk about brushes. What sorts of brushes that I like to use. Granted, I'm always going to tell you guys that there is no wrong way about doing things in this program. There are best practices, and many of the techniques that I picked up along the way, a lot of them I did not think of on my own. Shocking, right? No, but a lot of the things that I picked up were through other people like Mike Jensen, my own instructor, Isaac Oster, whenever I was going to school out at the Art Institute. And then there are other things I've picked up on my own through experimentation, things like that. So we're going to be using a combination of brushes. We're also going to be going through some Topology here in ZBrush. You can choose to go to an external program, say like 3D Coat or even with Maya with this quad draw capabilities. But we're going to keep it in-house here in ZBrush because, not everybody has access to those other programs. And so we want to make it user-friendly here today. All right. So once we get that done, then we will jump into using polygroups and then using creasing functions to be able to get the final result. Okay, so I'm going to try and blast through this as fast as possible, but I am going to take some time to make sure that we don't lose anything in the mix. All right, so what I will usually do if I don't have a concept, if I'm just messing around, is I will just stick to the basics. I'll grab a sphere and start pulling things around. I don't even have a concept right now, but I'll just use my transpose before I even get into the moving brush, right? So pull things out. And I think that's pretty good to go. All right. And so what I like to do is just keep it basic, right? What we're looking for whenever we're working with hard surfaces, we're looking for a change in surface. We're looking for those angle changes, those phase changes, right? So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to make here. It's probably going to be some weird alien spaceship head thing. I don't know. So what I'll do is I'll just start cutting into the surface. I'll be cutting in, and then I'll also build up, right, with somewhat of a large brush. Not going to be too concerned with the way that this is flowing, right? Remesh, smooth out the surface. And what I really want is just some surface change. Fill that out. So it doesn't look like a butt. So what I'll do is I'll just cut into things and just kind of formulate some sort of an idea. How do I want this to run into that, and that to run into this? All right, so this is enough. This is more than enough. We're not even going to be cracking away at the entire piece here. But so once I have just a basic form, I'll jump over to the Damien standard. I'll either use this or a /3. /3 is I like using it a lot more sometimes because it really gets in there. And so I'll use the Damien standard, and usually what I'll do is I'll crank up the lazy radius, right? And I'll just use this. And the majority of the work is done here, just kind of drawing things out. I'm sketching, right? Just sketching on dynameshed piece of geometry. So I'll go through, sketch things out, figure out where I want my little panel lines to be, and then after I'm done setting those creases in, I'll start coming through and deciding how do I want my topology to flow this way. So I'll set a crease there. And then once I've established that, I can go ahead and set one here too. Let's do one there too. Once I've established that, then I'll come over with say a H polish. I like using H polish because what it's going to do is going to push the geo up to that edge, right? And I'm not being too careful here. No need to be. This is just a sketch, right? You'll see what I mean here in a moment whenever we go to retop this. So try to, use a large brush, especially for this portion. And don't limit yourself. You might think that you have a solid idea of what you were going for, but don't be afraid to experiment. I mean, that's the entire purpose of this whole process, right? So I'll come through with an H polish on the side, set that in, and then just use it to round out this surface. Come over with the smooth. And then you can also just stamp it down, right? Just. And a lot of it, all it is just a bunch of, it's push and pull, right? You're pulling out a surface, coming back over with the H polish and stamping it back down. Okay. Now, whenever it comes to other things like those contours that I was working with on the previous project, where you have, let's say, a shape like this, and we want it to run down, right? We want it to cut in. Smooth it out real quick. We use the same sort of principle, right? So we come through with the Damien standard, pull the shape down, right? And then likewise, we'll push the shape right back in. Pull it back out. Then with a smaller brush size, push that back in. Then come back over with the H polish. Stamp that right back in place. And continue going about your day. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy, right? And so you can use things like that to really go to town. You can come up with some pretty crazy forms just by doing that, right? And so so that takes care of the sculpting part of this entire equation. But then we got to start looking into, okay, well, how do I take that and turn it into something manageable? Because there is no way that Maya is going to work for me with geometry that is as dense as this. Well, that's a great assessment, and that's something that we have to tackle here in ZBrush. So we've got the Dark Lord of the Sith here. It's a bit of an older project. There's some things I'm not happy about with it, but I bring it up because this is a similar situation, right, where I had a sculpture. Let me solo that. So I had a piece and some reference, and went through, sculpted things out, set creases, did all that stuff. And you can see here, I wasn't nearly as careful here as I just was on that previous demonstration. And the thing is that I don't have to be, because what we're going to be doing here in a moment is we're going to be retopologizing some pieces, right? So let's do that. Let's go back over to here and let's use this. So what I want to do is I want to create like a I don't know, like a panel that goes all the way around here. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to retopologize this. Now, we could break this apart. We could try running this through the ZBrush if we wanted to. And let's go ahead and do that. Let's see how it looks. And what I'm basically getting at is that it's not going to give us the results that we would really like to have. So we're going to crank it all the way down, hit it with the ZBrush, and it gets pretty close. I mean, this is manageable, but it's not optimal. So I'm even going to run it with the alternate algorithm, see how it goes. Still not bad, but still not exactly what I want. So here is where we're going to go. We're going to hop over here and grab a Z-sphere. All right. And then understand that this is a completely separate project, okay? Once we go down, we're going to go down to rigging, and we are going to select a mesh. And what we're going to select is our project that we worked on, okay? Or, you know what? Now, we're gonna work on this. Once we have that selected, let me turn off solo so we can actually see it, right? It does not matter where that Z-sphere sits in correlation to that mesh. Once we have that taken care of, we're going to open up this Topology tab and hit Edit Topology. All right, now we're in Edit Topology mode. A few things to be aware of in here. You cannot use Shift to snap the view while you're in draw mode here, because it will add a point. We don't want that. But if you're in move mode, you can do that all day long. Okay. See. All right. All right. So what we want to do is go ahead and turn on symmetry, and go ahead and start drawing out some topology. So whenever you're at this green line, it's going to be your center line, and what we need to do is start drawing out some quads. So let's go ahead and get that done. And I'm not going to be too careful here. I'm not even going to try to follow this whole entire form. In fact, I'm going to bring this down pretty far. And yeah, we'll work with this. Just be mindful that this red dot here is going to be the very last vert that you drew. And let's say I'm not ready to go back up in that direction, so what I want to do is I want to clear it. So I'll hold Control, and Control works with the masking feature normally whenever you're sculpting. And what I'll do is I'll just double click off of the geo, and then I'll go right back into it. And I usually make a habit of hitting that pretty regularly. All right. So that's good enough. This is probably going to stretch kind of strangely, but I'm actually going to work with this. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to get this turned into a piece of geometry. Now the same principle would apply if we were going through and making a panel like this. You would just go through and draw things out and call it a day. So what we need to do is we need to head over to Adaptive Skin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make two versions. I'm going to make one with no thickness and one that does have some thickness. So on this Adaptive Skin, we're going to drop this density down to 1 and just hit Preview. What it's going to do is it's going to show us what our piece of geometry looks like. Right? You turn on our polyframe. That's what we have to work with. I'm going to end up moving this edge up to even things out a little bit. But so once we have that, we will say we want to make this an adaptive skin. So we will head back over to our main project, and we'll say, okay, I'm going to append that skin to this project, and it's going to drop it right below, right? And it's sitting right in the same exact space. Before I go any further, though, I want to head back over into that project and turn off preview, because I want to grab one more piece. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some thickness. You can go two ways. You can go in the positive, and that's going to make it come off of this form, or you can go into the negative so that it drops down into the form. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to set it into the negative, and then I'm going to preview this again. So now, right now, there is thickness, but you can barely see it. So let's drop that down a little bit more. Preview. All right, now you can see it. Alright, and so now I'm going to make this one an adaptive skin as well. We're going to head back over to that project. Then we're going to pin that skin along with the other one. Now, we need to start talking about polygroups and creasing. So what I'm going to work on first is I'm going to work on the piece with the thickness, because this is a bit of an older way of going about things. Alright, with the Zmodeler it kind of changes things up, but let me take care of this these verts here. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the mask lasso. I'm just going to mask those verts and hope that I get the ones underneath as well. And then I'm going to invert the mask. I'm just going to grab my transpose line, move that around. Yeah, grab those two. Good. Just kind of even things out. Okay, so whenever we created this, it gave us 3 different polygroups. So it gave us one for the inside, it gave us one for the combining edge, and it gave us one for the outside. And there are a few things that we can do. I've seen people go a few different ways, and I'll show you one way. And it's going to be bouncing back and forth between making polygroups and setting creases. So what I've seen people do, let's go ahead and set this crease tolerance to 90 and this creasing level to 3. Okay, this is going to be the tolerance, the degree tolerance. Okay, and this is going to be the subdivision level at which the crease stops holding, if that makes sense. So it's going to stay a solid crease up until level 3, and then once you move beyond that, then you're going to start seeing it soften out. Okay, so let's look at this first way. Okay, so what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll come through and they'll grab an edge, right, and then they'll just manually crease it. So let's say crease, right? And you'll know it's creased because there's going to be a little dotted line there. And they'll go through each little piece, grab that, and they'll grab another one. They'll just go through and grab a whole series of things. Well, I don't work like that. What I like to do is I like to take advantage of the polygroups feature. So there's this thing down here called, in the polygroup tab, called groups by normals, right? So if I go groups by normals, ZBrush is going to look at the normal difference based on the maximum angle. So right now I have it set at 45 degrees, right? And so it's going to give me a group for every change in surface. And by doing that, I effectively knocked out 90% of the work that I need to do. I do need to go through here and turn this into a polygroup. What I'm going to do is hit Control W on the keyboard, and then I also need to turn, that one into a polygroup as well. The reason that I'm doing this is because rather than go through and try to do creases for every single move that I make, I'd rather just make ZBrush do the work for me because I'm lazy. So what I would do is I'll say, hey, there's this crease by polygroup function, let's do that. Crease by polygroup, look, amazing. Let's set creases for every change in polygroup. And so I can even go further. Let's say I didn't want to do that yet. Let's say I want to hold this edge here, right? And I'll make this a polygroup as well. Okay, that works. And then we'll do that again. Crease by polygroup. and it might give me some wonkiness here, but we'll see. So now all we got to do is we need to subdivide and watch the magic happen. You're gonna laugh at me if there's some weird pinching. So you can see it started smoothing things out, and I'm at the subdivision level 4. Now if I go up another one, we should start seeing some rounding. Yeah, there we go. And so it'll give us that nice little bit of a bevel, right? The cool thing about this is that this is still a sculptable piece of geometry, guys. You still come back over here and make whatever changes, but you've effectively knocked out the majority of your work by doing something like that. So that's doing it a bit of the old-fashioned way. Let's have a look at doing it with the Zmodeler, right? So we have the same exact piece of geometry, effectively. Let's go ahead and grab our Zmodeler brush. Yes, okay. Thank you. And let's turn on our polyframe. Again, I want to grab that edge, import the mask, move that up. Okay. I'm going to turn on Symmetry. And I'm going to use a Q mesh with I want to grab the entire poly group. I'm just gonna Q mesh that out. Okay, and essentially you can go through and do the same exact thing, or you can you make quick work of it by doing using the creasing function too. So poly group by border, grab that. That. Same thing here. There. There. And there. And there. Now if I turn on the dynamic subdivision, hitting D on the keyboard, you'll see that it changes. Now, you can also grab this surface there, make that its own poly group, dynamic subdivision, boom. Right? Same thing. And so, by doing things like this, this is just one piece, right? And so by using techniques like this is the same way that I went around creating Vader. It's the same way that I went about creating this fembot that I'm working on right now. Let me see here. This originally started as just a sketch, right? Let's solo this, and I just went around the this. This started out as a sphere. I started pulling things out, shaping them. That was use a curve tube, and it's just a matter of using brushes, setting creases, smoothing them out, and then going back over and retopologizing them, and then retooling them. Now this has changed quite a bit in the time that I've worked on it, but it is what it is. There is no right or wrong way to go about using things here in ZBrush. I've heard so many different things from people, especially whenever I heard it back whenever I started working on things like this. People would say, "Why are you using ZBrush to do hard surface?" And they're the same people that that will say, well, Max is better or Maya is better. The only thing that's better is the thing that speeds up your workflow. If you're great at hard surface and Max or Maya, good on you. But other people either don't have access to those programs, or maybe they struggle with those things. Some people are coming over from traditional sculpting backgrounds that could run circles around most people in digital realm if they had the proper amount of training. So don't just assume that that there is some golden right way about doing things. There are best practices. There are definitely best practices, and they have proven to be successful. But don't ever let somebody else's view on how to approach things affect your workflow, because whenever you're doing things that are essentially based in came out of either your imagination or someone else's imagination, it's a little bit insane to sit there and tell somebody that that's not right. We do have things like organic things, especially whenever it comes to human anatomy and things like that need to be grounded in reality. But who says that we have to follow any given rule? And I guess I'll end my little rant there. But I hope that this was useful. I hope that this answers some questions. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to help you with any situation or point you in the right direction. Definitely join the Facebook group. Some people already have. They've gone out and put some of their work up. It's really cool to see what you guys are working on. Definitely get out there and get involved. If you don't, I've got some free tools, free resources for anybody to grab. If you only joined the group just to grab those things, good on you. And I'm glad you did. So my aim here is to make sure that there's someone out there delivering some useful word on how to do anything in here. But always, please feel free to take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you're new, please subscribe. Otherwise, have a great day and happy ZBrushing. Take care.